to Smart from the Start. I'm your host, Daryl Murdoch, and we'll be presenting a series on Christian education. The topic that we have for you to consider is what is the mission of Christian schools in today's society? I'd like to introduce some Christian educators to you now. Mark, what's your involvement with Christian education?
It's good to be here, Daryl. I've been involved in Christian education in both day and boarding schools for over the past 24 years, and it's an exciting mission to be involved in.
Fantastic. God bless you. Natalie.
Thank you, Daryl. I'm a teacher at Nunawading Christian College. It's a prep to Year 12 school in Melbourne, Victoria.
Okay, and in the primary area is your focus?
It certainly is.
Excellent. Peter.
Yes, thanks Daryl. It's good to be here, and I'm an educator over 30 years, and I've been a teacher at high school level, a principal, and now I'm an administrator of around 11 schools in New South Wales.
Welcome, Peter. Thank you. Josh, welcome to you too.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Daryl. I'm a secondary school teacher at Macquarie College in New South Wales, where I teach English and history.
Thank you very much. The mission of Christian schools in the world today. Are we maintaining the focus? It doesn't take long to go back in history to the late 1890s to trace the origins of Christian education in Australia. Quite often schools were tucked away behind churches, in church halls or in crowded conditions. It was real pioneer times, but people were committed to maintaining the faith. And Adventist education started in a similar way, in small locations in Melbourne and just out of Hobart in Tasmania. And of course in Cooranbong, where the Avondale School was established. We had a pioneer in Adventist education, Ellen White, who was very committed to the mission and passion of Adventist education. It was her theory that it was important to be involved in manual labour, to be working in the gardens, to have a trade, but also to be a scholar and to be prepared for service in the community and beyond. I wonder how things have changed in the intervening years. Is it much the same, or has it changed a great deal? Peter, I'm wondering if you could share with us what you see has happened just in the last 20 or 30 years in terms of Christian education.
Yes, well, thanks Daryl. I guess I've seen over the 20 years that as the different things of the world that compete for the attention of the students, as this has increased, I've also seen that the spiritual level of our schools has increased along with it. And this is a great thing. I find the students and teachers more ready to accept spiritual things and to talk about Jesus openly. And I think this has been a progression ever since I've been a teacher, and I think it's at its top right now.
I'm really encouraged to hear that. Peter, Mark, your perspective.
Yes, Daryl, one of the things that we've noticed over the years is that there's been a change in some schools moving from a closed enrolment policy where they have had, well, unless you belong to our faith, unless you are here, our school is designed to protect our young people from the influences of the world, to a more open policy where we have said, okay, our schools form part of our evangelistic program and our ability to be able to enter our communities and interact with our communities.
Excellent. These are all very positive responses. I know that Christian schools have grown tremendously. We now have some wonderful flagship Christian schools across the nation, and Christian education is alive and well. And in Adventist schools, the number of Christian young people and families choosing Adventist education has grown tremendously. Peter, I'm just wondering, has this provided possibilities or challenges?
Well, I think any growing system provides both opportunities and challenges, but I like to talk about the opportunities. And so I would say that the more students we have in our Christian schools, the bigger the actual Christian community there becomes. And I don't like to think of schools as 5-day-a-week, 9 to 3 institutions. Our students have parents and friends outside the school community. And I think it's a very far-reaching institution as a Christian school now. And of course the bigger impact, the more people that are affected by the values taught in a Christian school, the more that is going to infiltrate society and the local community where the school is.
Mark, your perspective.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why people are seeking a Christian education these days, Daryl, is that our community and our society in general has tended to neglect these things, and people are finding that there is something missing in their life, that no longer are they regular church attenders, no longer is the spiritual element of their life being fed through a variety of means. In fact, we've got an anti-Christian media that often works in opposition, and so people are finding that lack, and they're looking for something that will be able to answer some of the big questions in life. And I believe that has actually accelerated the interest in Christian schools and Adventist schools in particular.
I've heard it said in some quarters that the school is often now the church of the community.
It is indeed, yes. I think about my own school, Gilson College on the western side of Melbourne there, where we have around almost 700 students representing close to 500 families, and each day there are thousands of people that are impacted by the work of a very dedicated team of teachers.
You know, folks, it doesn't take long before the pioneer spirit starts to wane. And we're a couple of hundred years down the track. Since Australia became a nation, Christian education is well down the track as well. And there are influences of secularism, the loss of that pioneer spirit. Are you seeing any evidences of this in terms of the secularisation of our schools?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I think as we've sort of been discussing, the community nature of a school has really been impacted, I think, in the last few decades as now both parents are working. And in the past, when one parent may have been free to help out in the canteen at school or be involved with sports teams, now both parents are working, and it's more of just the school is just providing a service almost, rather than the school is this integral thing that families and parents are part of, and it's almost, yeah, they don't have the time to do it as much anymore.
Mark?
Yes, I think one of the things that we've endeavoured to do at Gilson College is to ensure that our families become a part of the community. It's hard work, you know, as Josh has said. We live in a very busy 21st century, and there are competing demands on people's time. And part of the process, I suppose, is to get there and to be able to interact with our community in as many and as varied ways as we possibly can.
Thanks, panel, for your perspectives. It seems that keeping the Christian worldview is alive and well in our schools today, but not without challenges from secularism and a whole range of other forces that are competing in society. When we come back, we're going to be looking further at how to maintain a Christian worldview and exactly what is a Christian worldview. Welcome back to Smart from the Start. We're looking at how to maintain the mission of Christian schools. Worldviews. Worldviews are often coined as being the glasses through which we view the world. And Christians have a worldview. We believe in a meta-story, a meta-narrative, a story that begins with once upon a time. Once upon a time things were good, things were perfect. But then evil entered the world and changed all of that. Things got worse. Things got very worse, to the point where there was a great deal of concern, a great deal of despair in our world. And then, at the last possible moment, a hero came along, Jesus Christ, and saved this world. And right now we're waiting for him, the King, to return. We're living as members of his kingdom, but we're still waiting to go back to that happily ever after location that we all long for and wish to see. So how do we keep this Christian worldview alive? We believe that we have the answers to the world's big questions. Where did I come from? What am I here for? Where am I going? That meta-story answers all of those questions. However, there are many competing forces in society that are dragging us away from the Christian worldview and endeavour to put a different stamp on how we should think and feel. The Bible warns us in Colossians 2:8 to be very, very careful in terms of human reasoning. I'd like to share this text with you. Colossians 2:8 says, "Beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Christ." Very sound advice in the world today. What are some of the competing philosophies that are out there, some of the isms that invade society today? First and foremost would have to be humanism. Humanism is trying to tell us that truth and morality can be found through human reasoning. There is no need for the divine. We can solve the world's problems. And then there is relativism, where what is true for me may not be true for you, but it doesn't matter. That's fine. What you believe is okay, what I believe is okay. Just try and sell me what you believe. There's no absolute truth. You just believe what you want to believe. Individualism, where people are out just pursuing their own interests. And of course there's many more. There's atheism, there's pantheism, there's naturalism, there's consumerism, there's secularism. We're invaded by the isms. And in this world, where our young people are brought up in such a society, how do we actually maintain the Christian worldview? Josh, you're a teacher. Tell us how you go about it in the classroom.
Yeah, I think it's a real challenge in the world in which we live today. I mean, kids are bombarded from every angle by all these different factors. As you've said, you know, they've got MTV and video hits on the TV when they go home, and they've got all these variety of things on the internet. They can access whatever they want. Like, it's all there. And so basically we are just really facing that challenge of trying to set a good example and just lead children in the way that God would have them go. And I guess in a world where their opinion's okay and they don't think that that what I say necessarily is the be-all and end-all as their teacher, they think, well, that's good for you, sir, but I'm allowed to have my opinion and it's okay if it's different from yours. And I'm really glad that they're free-thinking students like that, but it's about finding that balance, and I guess that's the real trick.
Natalie, you're in the primary classroom. Are you seeing these influences even down at the younger year levels?
Oh yes, the role of media today is incredible, and students even in the primary school are affected by it, as well as peers, and they do come to school with a certain worldview from their parents as well, what they've been raised with. So it is quite a challenge for us in the classroom to help model what our views are as well, Christian views.
Not only at a classroom level are we having to tackle some of these influences, but also at a school level, as a principal, Mark, as an administrator, Peter. Let's start with perhaps at administrative level. What is our schools doing to combat these competing worldviews?
Well, I think from a system level there's a few things, a few practical things we can do to start with. The first is to make sure that we have Christian teachers in our schools, and that's very, very important. Secondly, it's important that we make sure that our curriculums, both our written curriculum and everything else that happens in the school, has biblical principles and values written into it. And that's what the teachers are actually working from. And a third very practical and useful thing, I think, is to make sure that our schools are actually emulating the life of Christ in the way that they serve people, the way they care for the community within the school and also the communities outside the schools.
I'm sure part of that is committed, passionate Christian teachers.
That's exactly right, yes.
Having those teachers that have a mission focus, that sort of see their goal and their programs to be directed towards young people. You also asked about what is it that we can do at a school level. And one of the things that we've done at Gilson College is we have a team of people that work on what we call our Learning for Life program. And the team there have put together a whole series of programs to ensure that our young people are combating a lot of the declines. It was Kurt Hahn some years ago that talked about the decline of fitness and the decline of initiative and enterprise, the decline of meaning and imagination in students, their skill, their care, their self-discipline, and finally their compassion. And so we've put together a program that has provides an antidote for those sort of things, and where they go on expeditions and they have service learning opportunities where they will go out into the community and spend time with old folks' homes and with preschools and connecting with their community. And I think it's through service to others that we find a greater meaning that rather than centering on ourselves, we're helping others. And that's the spirit of Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark, and thank you, participants. The ideas that you've given in how to maintain a Christian worldview has been invaluable. And we're going to come back after the break. We're going to talk further about what Christian schools are doing to engage young people. Research would tell us that we live in a world where young people live an extended time of adolescence. In fact, many young people don't have a meaningful contribution to society until well into their 20s. And they are bored, they're restless. What can we do to capture that restlessness and take it somewhere? Stay with us. Welcome back to Smart from the Start. The episode that we are involved in is looking at how to maintain the mission of Christian schools. Before the break, we discussed the fact that in society, young people are often disengaged from their communities for extended periods of time, often into 20s by the time they finish their university degrees. And it is contended by research that this creates an extended period of adolescence where they're disengaged from what it really is to do productive things in the community. Now, Christian schools are looking at ways to combat this, to engage young people in meaningful ways. And often this is through service activities, both in the local community and beyond. And we're going to now explore some of the things that Christian schools are doing in Australia. I think you'll find it exciting. Josh, you've been overseas and you're also now a teacher and seeing things happening in your own school.
Yep.
Tell us a bit about your involvement in service.
Yeah, I guess it started for me when I was a student in an Adventist high school, getting involved in Stormco's and local mission projects to communities in need. And as I moved to Avondale College, where I did my bachelor's degree, I was actually fortunate enough to be a part of a group of people that started an organisation called One Mission, which is now the short-arm branch in Australia of Adventist Volunteers Association. And we've been blessed to link up with them, and basically we connect people in Australia with third world needs, and we sort of have taken a few trips to a range of countries now. We've been to Cambodia and the Philippines and Mozambique and Tanzania and Thailand and India twice. So these trips are really happening, and this is in the space of 2 or 3 years. There's been hundreds of volunteers go out, and what it's shown me is that, like you've been saying, Daryl, there is this need, and that children today and young adults just don't know how to express it. They don't know how to connect to their communities because it isn't forced upon them like it used to be. We don't have to do chores like we used to.
They want to rally around a cause though, don't they?
Exactly. And so that's what I think, Christian organisations can provide, and kids just jump on it and it's exploding.
At the school level?
Yeah, at the school level, we are running Stormco's, as I said, and also for our Year 9 students at Macquarie College, where I teach, we have a No Limits program where we get a lot of the at-risk teens or the kids who we think would make good leaders in the future, or the children who just are looking for a bit of direction in their lives, and we really encourage them to get involved in the community and sort of do these service projects as Mark said, like at Gilson, similar sort of ideas of getting involved with old people and helping out around the place and feeling like they're connected.
I like the fact that you're connecting with the local community.
Yeah.
Quite often we think that it needs to be elsewhere,
Exactly.
but there's huge needs and opportunities in the local community. I think that's important.
Yeah.
Natalie, you're a primary teacher. Is there anything that is occurring down there with the younger children in terms of getting involved in service and contributing meaningfully to their community?
Yes, well, just recently my class and a fellow teacher's class, we've gone down to the local park and helped with a community project there in planting trees. So extending an arm to the community, getting involved, and just that interaction with the community folk has been a real positive. And there are other initiatives in the school. Another class has been involved in giving out Anzac biscuits to the local retirement village folk, and they've really appreciated that. There are school visits to churches and so on.
It's excellent, isn't it? We're trying to get away from that selfishness, that self-centeredness, and focus on others. It's really exciting to hear. Peter, from your experience.
Yeah, look, I have a recent experience as a father, actually, in that my 15-year-old son recently came back from a mission trip to Vanuatu, where he spent 10 days taking iron off roofs and scrubbing the rust off and putting 3 coats of paint back on, rather than to go and bask on the beach. And yet we drove from Sydney to Brisbane to pick him up, and on the way back, the only time he stopped talking about it and the wonderful things he'd done, how great it was to help others, was when he had a 10-minute snooze.
These are great. This is keeping the mission of Christian schools alive, our worldview, our focus. We're members of the kingdom of heaven, and we are here on a mission, a purpose. Mark, I know you've had some exciting things happening at Gilson in terms of service and outreach.
Sure, yeah. As I mentioned earlier, Daryl, as a part of our Year 9 Learning for Life program, we have endeavoured to give our students a different alternative from the usual existence of a Year 9 student. Sitting in front of the TV with a remote control, doesn't involve a lot of activity or a lot of effort.
Talking in grunts. And
that's it, yes, exactly. And so we have intentionally set out an expedition program that is physically demanding and has provided challenges for our young people as well. We've also had the service learning projects, and I think that you made a good point earlier. It's good to give a variety. We have some of our students that will be going in a few months to our orphanage that we operate in Burma, and that's an exciting opportunity.
Tell us more about that. That sounds amazing.
Yes, the orphanage over there caters for obviously students and young people that have a far different set of circumstances to the environment in which our own children here in Australia grow up. And when our young people see that type of thing, they come back knowing that life is not about themselves and about their iPod and those type of things. It's actually about service to others and helping them. And so we've found that that's had a significant impact. For some people, an overseas trip is not an option, and so options of a local based nature are important. And some of the closest ones to home for us is where we have our Year 9s going down into the primary school and spend time reading with those young people and helping them learn the skills of literacy and numeracy and other activities as well. And so, you know, we see these as valuable inputs into a young person's life.
And you were saying that they went to a country town and adopted this town for a period of time?
Yes, they go down and spend time at Warrnambool, and one of the things that we've worked in together there with is the Department of Sustainability and Environment, and we've had our students constructing boardwalks, doing the planting or the revegetation of 4 dunes, and also doing some work on some of the plant species. And we had a little bit of a win last year where our students discovered a new species of plant.
Oh, true.
And so the government has their official information sheet about the new plant there, and sure, there is our students. They're listed as the acknowledging their work in discovering the new species. And so I think when students realise that they can play a valuable part in our community, then they start to be less prone to at-risk behaviours.
So engagement, involvement, a sense of service, these are things that are obviously alive and well in our schools. Folks, I think we could be very proud, we should be very proud of what is happening in Christian schools today. They are keeping the mission and spirit of Christian schools alive and well, maintaining that Christian worldview. Sure, there are times when things don't quite happen the way we would like, but the intent is there, the direction is there, and I think our pioneers would be extremely proud of what is happening in Christian schools today, all these years later.